So I'm something of a big fan of Magic the Gathering, and I was thinking how it's something of a tragedy that there's no sanctioned format where you can run more than one Sol Ring. In Commander, it's singleton, you can't run more than one of any card. In Vintage, it's restricted to one because it's too powerful. So I was thinking, what if we had a version of Vintage where there was no restricted list and no ban list, and you could run any card as long as it was printed onto cardboard? And it turns out that that is a bad format, that there's a reason that people don't play like that. And I'm going to be talking about my deck that I devised for this that sort of demonstrated why this is a bad idea. So this is a combo deck that seeks to win in the upkeep of whoever's turn is first. The entire deck operates completely at instant speed, and it is a Thassa's Oracle combo deck that uses draw spells to draw through your entire library before the opponent has even had a draw step. What makes this format so ridiculously strong is the sideboard, which is probably the most important thing to talk about, because of a set called Conspiracy, and the conspiracies therein that are all banned in Vintage. The way that these cards work is if you have it in your sideboard, you can, at the start of the game, move it to your command zone, and then it just gives you like a permanent buff or something. And we are running 15 of these because sideboarding between games is not worth the power trade-off of being able to triple your ancestral recalls. So we're running these 15 conspiracies. Firstly, we have the basic stuff, Advantageous Proclamation, which allows you to reduce the minimum deck size by 5, which we have 4 of, so that our deck is only 40 cards. Then we have Backup Plan. This is probably the most powerful conspiracy. I think if you just had to pick one conspiracy, I'd probably pick this. It makes it so that instead of just drawing like an opening hand, like a loser, you instead draw an additional opening hand for each backup plan you have, and then you pick one of those, which in a 40-card deck means that we look at 35 of the cards, which makes this deck incredibly consistent. Then we have Iterative Analysis. This is a really basic one, but you choose an instant or sorcery before the game begins for each copy of Iterative Analysis. We're running 4. And then anytime you cast that instant or sorcery, you just draw an extra card. And then we have Iterative Analysis's older brother, Double Stroke, which allows you to just make a copy of whatever that instant or sorcery is, which it turns out is very, very strong when we have Ancestral Recall in the deck, and we have 4 of it, because it's not restricted. So we have Iterative Analysis list Gitaxian Probe 3 times, 3 of the 4 are on Gitaxian Probe, so that when we play the card, we draw a card because it's Gitaxian Probe, and then we draw 3 additional cards. And the reason why we're doing that instead of Double Stroke is not only to save on double strokes, but also because the copies can't be counted. And then we're running Double Stroke on Ancestral Recall. We have 2 copies of an Ancestral Recall, so that when we play the card, we'll draw 9. And then the remaining copy is on Mystical Tutor, and also the remaining Iterative Analysis is on Mystical Tutor. This is so that when you cast the spell, you get 2 triggers, and you can order them how you like, so that you can put an instant or sorcery on top, and then immediately draw a card, and then the first Mystical Tutor you cast resolves. Which is very, very strong, it turns out. As for the mana base, we never get to our main phase, so we're running only Lotuses and Moxes. And this is where the playtest cards from Mystery Booster 2 are helpful, because we have Mox Poison, which is a Mox that taps for 1 mana of any color, and it gives you 2 poison counters. Now, given that we're never going to untap, we'll never get above 8 poison counters, so it's basically just a Lotus Petal. Speaking of which, we do have 4 copies of Lotus Petal, 4 copies of Mox Sapphire, and 4 copies of Black Lotus, to ensure that we have enough mana to do whatever we want to do. And then we're running 4 of Pact of Negation, so that we have some interaction. We don't really need to worry about the cost, since we're not going to untap ever. To make sure that we can do all this, we have Leyline of Anticipation, and because we're drawing 35 cards at the beginning and like picking one of 5 hands, you pretty much always have a Leyline of Anticipation in your opening hand. And then of course we have 4 of Thassa's Oracle. There's multiple copies there if you need to force it through. And yeah, that is the entire deck. Everything is a play set. because it's a bit slapdash. And this deck is insanely strong. You essentially draw 5 opening hands. You're looking for one that has a ley line and a mystical tutor or an ancestral recall, and then enough mana to make sure that you ancestral recall. And if you ancestral recall, then you can play all your moxes or your lotuses, and you can usually just draw through your whole deck because drawing 9 cards is absolutely nuts. And when you get to the end, when you get to the point where you have less than 2 cards in your library, you just play all of the fastest oracles in your hands, one after another. Now you should kind of spread them out because if the opponent has a counterspell, the counterspell might be noted with double stroke, so you don't want them to be on the stack at the same time. And that's the deck, and it's incredibly broken, and no one should ever play this format. It's horrendous.